You're listening to Inside Real Estate, where we go deep into the minds of real estate professionals. Here are your hosts, Paul and Sal.
What's up, everyone?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brad's in the office, in the podcast today. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. We have a very special guest, Kathy Scalabrino from Keller Williams Lakeside. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing very well. You had a hard time getting here?
2 hours.
Man.
Orange barrels everywhere.
2 hours.
2 hours.
That's crazy.
She was like, I
And
could
it's
have
not like you drove from like Flint or
Yeah, I was gonna say, it took me, like-
No,
Lansing.
Shelby Township.
Shelby
Yeah.
Township. Yeah, 2 hours to get here from Shelby.
Man.
I mean, for our listeners across, that shouldn't take 2 hours.
I mean, it takes you 2 hours to
30
get across
minutes
the
it
state.
should take.
Yeah.
It's construction.
Construction.
Yeah, because our roads suck.
Yep. I could have drove to Cedar Point and back. Well, to Cedar Point, not back.
Yeah.
If there was no construction on that road.
Right.
So, Kathy,
Yeah,
you've been in the business since 2014. You work out at Keller Williams in Lakeside. Very good office there, big office. Something that's notable, I think I was reading about you, is you've raised over $10,000 for the Children's Miracle Network, which is awesome.
Actually, I've had my license since '95.
Oh.
So I started in the '90s, and
Got
then
it. Okay.
stayed home and raised my children. So got back in the business in 2014. So I did raise money for charitable events. One of them being Children's Miracle Network.
Awesome.
Raised $7,000 for that. Then several years ago, I did a fundraiser for Macomb Charitable Foundation.
That's awesome.
Raised $6,000 for that, and then 2 years ago did a fundraiser for the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors. We raised money for Guardian Angels Medical Service Dogs.
That's awesome.
Raised $5,000 for that. So
Wow.
do a lot of charitable work.
That's awesome. Well, kudos on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's kind of separate from the real estate part, but I thought it was notable. I think we should definitely talk about your character. That's pretty good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What's cool about
Yeah.
our business is it's so networked, right? So when you get a lot of people together who are agents and in the community, it's always good on everyone's part to contribute towards stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into the show, guys. So if all our listeners out there, please go ahead and go to iTunes Store, subscribe, Google Play, Podcast Detroit app, YouTube. We're everywhere, right? We're everywhere.
Stitcher.
Jessica, we're everywhere.
Yeah, and
Stitcher.
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, all
All
that,
those
all that
places.
stuff. Okay, Kathy, you're going to talk to us a little bit about the new construction market, which I think is and actually one of my topics is actually about the Trump's tariffs and how that's affecting the new construction market. Another topic I want to talk about is Goldman Sachs. Their economist came out with an article which I thought was poignant. He said there's little sign of recession over the next 3 years. So I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about the shift right now that we're seeing from being a seller's market to more of a buyer's market, which happened really overnight. We've been talking
did.
about it,
Happened
Yeah.
fast.
and we did it. We when it happened, we talked about it, but it's really interesting how quickly. I mean, it shifted, especially in our market, right? Across the country, it's the same. Our market was like almost overnight.
Right.
So, but let's start with new construction. So, talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing in the new construction sector of our market.
Well, it's been hot for several years now.
Yeah.
So I think one of the contributing factors is that there was so little inventory on the market that all these buyers were out there and they couldn't find resale homes.
Yeah.
So they entered the new construction arena,
Yep.
which drove the prices up. The
Yeah.
builders got hungry and they saw what was happening. So, all these people flooded the new construction arena and prices just went crazy.
Yeah, and
right
builders aren't built. And Sal, these builders aren't building like $150,000 houses. They just don't do that.
Why would they?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They're building like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 houses.
Right. Well, especially custom homes where the house that you have to buy
Yeah.
to bulldoze is already 150 grand
Right.
usually, and then you have a plot of land that you're subdividing and creating these separate parcels. What are you going to do? Right.
Even the condos are high right
Yeah.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
people are saying, I'm going to pay that for a condo, but people are.
What's crazy
doing
is a lot of these new construction homes too. Their price point is at or almost cheaper than some of these existing homes and subdivisions next to them. Because I hear a lot of people like, "Well, it's been listed, like a $400,000-$500,000 home," but why would someone buy it when they can go across the street and buy a brand new home?
It's not
You
true
know?
though, because
Yeah.
when my wife and I were looking at houses like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, we looked at new construction, but it was so expensive to buy. Because here's the thing with new construction.
But we're
That's just
talking
'cause of
apples
where-
and oranges to what your house is. No offense, but like homes that were built maybe like
Yeah.
5-6 years ago versus
Your house is fairly new.
you know
My house isn't fairly new. I had to
It's
gut
probably
it.
what 15
Yeah,
years old.
yeah,
So
but
I'm
I
talking
still
like
had
a
to gut
home
it.
that was built like 5.
But it made
10
more
years
sense
ago
for me.
versus-
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with new construction, right? You move into new construction, you don't have sod. You potentially don't have
You have
sprinklers.
to put all that in.
You don't have a deck, right? There's all these other expenses that come with a new construction. You might pay
Yeah.
$450 for the house, but you still have to do the landscaping, which costs another $30K.
But it's got that
sometimes.
new house smell.
You might you
Well,
don't
yeah,
have that new house.
They don't
smell,
do a
dude.
lot of
Paul,
things.
was your
like-
house updated when you bought it?
No, it was. Listen, my house was actually really nice when I moved in, but we gutted it. We redid the floor. We did everything. We blew out walls, and because we wanted it to be our aesthetic, so we spent $35,000-$40,000 to get it to where we want it to be.
Right.
But we felt like it was still a better buy than buying new construction at that time, because again, I would have paid an extra $70K for a new construction, and then I had all these other expenses I had to do. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So for us, with our budget where it was, we got more out of buying older and renovating as opposed to buying a brand new construction.
Yeah, and what I see is the HGTV mentality going on right now. So you take people in a resale home, and it's a beautiful home. It needs some updates, and they think they're going to get $30,000 off the price because they expect the sellers to come in and do a complete renovation.
Yeah, and a kitchen only costs 5 Gs.
Yeah.
Like,
And I always say, HGTV has totally changed the mindset of buyers.
It's crazy.
They
Yeah.
walk in and they want to see completely updated for that price.
But it's fake.
It is fake.
It's not real.
It's not real.
But that's why I think we're seeing the booming new construction. We're going to see it continue to rise, is because today's buyer wants turnkey. They want nice, new, clean finish. They don't want to have to do any
Well,
work.
You're
especially
in the house.
100% right.
Especially
Especially
millennials. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to do any work. I'm not a millennial. I'm close, but I'm not. But I didn't want to do any work. I didn't want to, but I had to.
My
right?
first house, I wanted to do work.
Yeah, because you're
I'm
like
too busy
that.
for that shit.
You're weird.
Well, I mean, they will do the work, but they want the price off the house. And the
Right.
seller, I always say, it's not love it and listed. It's listed. It's listed for a reason. If the seller wanted to do a complete remodel, they would have remodeled it and stayed.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
interesting. The new construction market is, it was booming. But here, let's talk about these tariffs, right? Because this is one of the topics I want to get into. So it's a good segue. So Trump's latest Chinese tariffs are a $1 billion tax on housing, right? Lumber's down, but all these products. There's over 6,000 products listed on the latest tariffs from Trump administration that look to affect new housing construction.
Yeah. Well, I think they get all the drywall from China.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of things.
And that's like a massive part of.
and all the lumber comes from Canada.
Yeah. So.
And lumber costs are, well, they're better than they were the year before last. They've kind of simmered down a little bit. Now with the tariffs, the lumber cost is going to go up again.
It definitely, hey, if a builder knows now what the cost is, here's the cost of building the home, right? And they can control their margins that way. But if you sold the home and you sold the job at X price, right, and the prices rise, what do? Does the builder usually come back and say, hey, prices went up of materials, or hey, here's the contract. We got to honor it even if they lose on it.
Well, if you sign a contract, they have to
Yeah,
honor
it's
the
over.
contract.
It's over.
Well, I'm sure
right?
there's something in the contract that, I mean,
No, there isn't.
there's a caveat on there for building materials.
No.
Not generally, no.
No?
No, bro.
I mean, the
No.
price is
They're
the
not really
price,
smart
the
then.
base
Yeah,
price.
we agreed on a price because it
Yeah.
costs more to lay the foundation, or someone quit on you. You still have to honor
true.
that contract, right?
Yeah, and I think it is interesting, too, when you drive by a neighborhood, starting in the 250s, right? But then by the time you add on all the
380.
finishings and
Yeah.
customizations, it could be another $100,000.
That's the thing. So most builders will advertise the base price. So a customer sees the base price and they think, oh, I can get new construction for $270.
It's a white box.
Wait a second. Let's
Just
bring you
studs.
in. Now you've got about $20,000 to $50,000 in extras that the customer hasn't even thought about.
Right. So I mean, look, these tariffs are gonna affect. I mean, even things like appliances.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, right? Appliances are getting tariffed. Potentially carpet. There's a million. China makes a lot of stuff, right?
There's very little that we get American made. So it's going to affect every
You
aspect
can,
of
but it
people's-
costs more.
Yeah.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Well, which I understand from Trump's standpoint, where he's like, "Screw it, we'll just buy our own stuff," right? But it affects so many different things. This could have a really unpleasant effect on our new housing construction market, which I think is just going to be something we've got. Because, by the way, he announces these tariffs; they're not enacted yet. They've got to go through some steps. They're not there yet.
Right. Well, I'm sure it goes deeper than this, but if now you can enter the market as an American manufacturer of appliances and be competitive with the prices of China, right?
China.
Then, it is funny to say. But then more manufacturers may enter the market and create more competition amongst American manufacturers, which will lower the price.
Maybe, right?
Well, you have a couple factors. It's not just materials; it's labor. Labor's high right now because we have a lack of
There's a
laborers.
shortage. There's a shortage of labor.
Everybody's pushing their kids into college, so the trades are bare right now.
College is a waste of money.
Everyone's pushing the kids to college and saying
It's a
you
waste of
don't want to
money.
work with your hands the rest of your life. You don't, it's a negative thing. So skilled trades are hurting.
Yeah,
They're
but
definitely
you know what's really
hurting.
funny about skilled trade? I was talking about this. As computerized and computers and automation, they're going to be taking a lot of people's jobs. These high end jobs that can be they're automated, right? Eventually, skilled labor will be the only, you can't really automate a guy that does stairs, or you can't really automate. It's a little bit different, right?
Right.
Then
So-
that human skill.
A human skill that you can't really automate the skill set of that. So that might be a sector that, in my opinion, that will have more longevity in it.
For sure.
As opposed to somebody
No,
working
of
on the
course.
line or even like a loan officer. Someday we might be replaced by just an app, right?
I think we're 100,000 times more likely to be replaced than the guy who does drywall.
Exactly.
Well, you need
Exactly.
manual labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's not going away, right? You need someone to be, you can't, maybe a
Well,
robot will
in
do
our
it, but-
business, right, like sitting at the closing table, it's always like, hey, when do you plan to move in? Well, we got to paint, or we got to do this. Or we
Right.
oh, do you have anyone? Well, we can't find anyone. We're going to do it ourselves. Or everyone's booked out for 2 months, and it's
Yeah.
like, man, I've got a few buddies who do this, and I feel like I could kick them so much business, but they
They don't have
they
time.
can't handle
We
it.
need
don't
to
have time,
really
yeah.
push these young men and women to trade schools, technical schools, to get their skills.
They don't even have to go to
For
trade school.
HVAC.
Just go hang out with a guy that does like woodwork,
Yeah.
right? For 3
Network.
years, right? Go hang out with a guy that does
Take shop class in high school.
Right. I guess my point is, instead of coming out of college with like $40K in student loan debt and getting
40?
a 35,
40K.
100K,
100K is more like
yeah,
80,
100K,
100.
right? And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you get a $50,000 a year job, and you'll never pay off that debt. Really, I mean, you will always be in. It's a crazy. The student loan thing is just so crazy to me. It's so expensive to go to college, and colleges can go ahead and keep raising tuition because people will keep borrowing
Right.
money to go there, right?
Yeah. I mean, we need plumbers, electricians, HVAC, and you do have to go
Welders.
to, get licensed to do those things or go to the trade schools that they have. It's
Right.
like 6-month program.
Sure.
But you don't walk out with $100,000 debt. And
No,
you
dude.
walk out under an apprenticeship
Yep.
making
That's
money in
thing
the
that-
field.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think a lot of millennials don't like because they want to go to college. They don't want to have to.
Well,
they-
college is fun.
Right. Well,
right?
the college is fun. They
Yes.
want to put their
Yeah, a lot
work
of fun.
in college, right? They don't want to do an apprenticeship where they get treated like a frat pledge, right? And they don't get paid shit and they're doing all their grunt work. They don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. But in the long term, it pays off, right? The hard work.
I just this whole college thing. If you're out there and you're thinking about going to college, don't do it.
Paul is like
I'm
anti-college.
so
I'm like,
unless you're going to be a doctor,
I don't know if
or a
that's necessarily
lawyer,
the truth.
or something super specialized. Like if you want to be an accountant, if you hung out with an accountant for 3 years, you'll learn a lot more.
I would say don't
A shitload.
think about not going to college.
Don't go to
but
college.
Think about
Go to college
other
for a year and drop out.
opportunities.
What's
My
right?
daughter, who's 20, was at Macomb. She's now selling real estate full time, so she took a semester off.
Good for her.
And her professor in one of her Macomb classes stood up in front of the class and said, "You guys need to be going to technical school and trade school. Our laborers we're lacking in that
Yeah.
right now, and you guys are sitting here going in debt." And a professor was
Yeah.
pushing it.
Yeah.
So that goes back to what you said about opens an opportunity for new manufacturers in America to open up. There is no labor. To your point, there's no labor. There's no skilled laborers to support those. So we're just gonna be paying more for goods for no reason. Trump thinks that China's going to pay for it with these tariffs, but no, it's the American consumer that pays for it.
Well, potentially, right? If a manufacturer opens up and creates a lot more opportunity, right? Like, let's say, all right, 90% of goods are made in China, right, in the appliance factories and the tool and die shops over there, versus, hey, we're going to manufacture all this stuff over here, and now there's 100,000 more jobs available for people to work in, right? Before, there might not be that opportunity or that, because right now it's almost like entrepreneurial, right? Like people who go into the trades usually work for themselves. They're electricians, plumbers, like you said, HVAC contractors versus people who want to go and work at a plant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
just last thing on that is just don't go to college. Next topic is going to be.
There you go, kids. Don't go to college.
It's just crazy. Waste of time.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad. Goldman Sachs. This is a really interesting article to me because everybody's talking about the impending doom of our economy. Everybody's calling out that it's going to crash. It's going to crash, and obviously, if you say something long enough, it's going to happen, right? So, I said that 4 years ago. Well, it didn't happen for 4 years, but I actually saw this article, and it was from a Goldman Sachs economist, which was actually the other side of it. It says, this is what he said: recession risk is muted and below average even 3 years from now, according to Goldman Sachs economists. The 36%, there's a 36% chance of a recession within the 3 years is below historic averages. If the U.S. falls into a recession, there's a greater chance other countries will as well. So this is the quote. Our model paints a more benign picture in which robust growth coupled with receding concerns that financial conditions were unsustainably easy have so far put a lid on U.S. recession risk. It's just so opposite of what everybody's been saying, and I kind of feel the same way. As long as our job market is good, I don't see a recession coming right now. What are you think it's going to come? What's wrong with your face right now?
I don't like that Goldman Sachs is the only one saying this because one, it's Goldman Sachs. They're deep in the pockets of politicians, especially on the right side, but supporting Trump.
We're not talking conspiracy
I'm just
theories,
saying.
right?
It's not a conspiracy theory. I just don't like.
This isn't Young Turks, dude.
It's one.
This is not Young Turks.
It's one source, right, where everyone else is saying it's coming at some point. It's some form of a recession.
Well, the market is
Right?
definitely cooling down. We see
but
that.
it's a healthy cool down, though. It wasn't
But this
forced.
is cyclical. This is what happens in this
We're
market.
back to being seasonal. The thing about our market that I think is very
Well, it's not
important to
just our
note.
market.
Stop talking. What I think is very important to note is that nothing forced the cool down. It was a natural progression
Right.
of the market saying it's getting too hot. Had it kept overheating, yeah, we got a big problem. But it naturally said, well, okay, we got to chill out for a minute, right? Nothing forced it. It wasn't an economic factor. There was no bombings. There was no it just happened, right? And that's natural, and it's comforting to me to know that it happened on its own, right?
That's one market, though. We're talking about the whole economy.
The whole economy is doing great. What's wrong with the economy?
But we're poking the bear. We're
poking the bear.
We are fucking with the second largest economic force in the world, China. You don't think if that gets heated even further that it's going to have a major impact on the world economy and ours?
You cannot solve for a factor like that. What they're saying is it is within what's going on in our economy today, we are relatively insulated over the next 3 years. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I'm just sick of hearing everybody say how bad it is.
What someone's saying. So who cares? I mean,
the sky's green.
Ultimately, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think that things will be well too, right? I'm positive about the market going forward. I don't think we'll see a recession like we did before, but we will see a recession because everything's like a volcano.
It's cyclical.
A volcano?
It's gonna erupt again. It's gonna come down,
right? It's just how bad it's gonna erupt.
Yeah.
And when is it? I mean, you can't predict shit like that, right?
Yeah.
To a T. You might say, all right, there's a 36% chance that this volcano erupts in the next 2 years. And then it doesn't happen. Or it does happen. How bad is it?
My whole point, and Kathy, please back me up on this. My whole
Paul is like really like your approval ratings are going down. I can't wait till you drop your kid off at college and you're like,
well, he's not. He said don't go to college.
They're not going to college.
Until she's like, I want to go to MSU, Dad.
No, she's not going to MSU. I know what happens in MSU.
My son just graduated from MSU.
Yeah, well, he's a boy. So my whole point is that I'm very relieved that finally someone is saying on the other side, because everybody just keeps talking shit and saying how bad it is and how we're gonna crash and it's gonna be so bad.
Well,
But you feed into the drama.
I don't feed into the drama, but these are just
you do.
Yeah.
There's always doom and gloom. You're always going to hear that on the news. So everything's always doom and gloom.
I feel
people like, I mean, and we all of us, I think, have a degree of this, but people like to think of like Armageddon, right?
Yeah,
There's all these movies out. They love like
they want to see a car crash.
Drama.
Yeah.
They love drama.
They want to see a car crash.
Are we starting to loan to 550s now?
We always have. Yeah. And it was FHA. FHA will go down to 550 all day.
VA will go
It's
down
not a
to
big
500.
thing though. It's always been a thing where it's been there, but it's not a.
But there's so
big-
many other factors
Yeah.
that you have to take into effect for that to work, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost
yeah.
like, hey,
It's very difficult.
we know your credit is smashed because you had some lates on
Smashed.
some like cars that you forgot to pay or whatever, but you have a really good job. You have money in the bank. You have reserves. You have this. You have that. Okay, you can get a loan.
Our housing market is very healthy. Foreclosures are historic lows. Down payments are up. Average credit score is up. DTIs are down. So per loan basis, right?
But what will blow my mind is how many calls I get. Hey, do you guys do loans for people in bankruptcy?
Oh yeah, we get that all the time. It's
Oh,
like
man.
And honestly, if there's even a
Prostitutes? Are
chance,
we loaning to prostitutes?
I
not-
just
not
don't.
anymore. We used to.
yeah,
We used to. No,
I-
one come
no,
to
we
my
don't.
set.
right?
Don't worry about it. You got cash?
I get 10 emails a day about
No
it.
credit, no
It's crazy.
problem.
It's like one
Stated
day out of
income, stated
bankruptcy, you
assets.
can go buy a home.
Yeah, some
Why
people
would
shouldn't
you
buy a house.
How?
Yeah.
I mean, unless your bankruptcy was like a Trump bankruptcy or like a 50-cent bankruptcy where you're like, I did it because it made sense for my
50
books,
cent
right?
bankruptcy, yeah.
Like I didn't do it because I'm broke. I did it because
The law lets me.
yeah,
Yeah, but there are programs you could do a day out of bankruptcy.
right. But you need like 30% down.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, you did that because
and you get like a 10%, right?
your business was failing, but you still got money, or one of your businesses.
Oh,
was failing.
over-
Those programs set you up to fail.
Yeah, Kathy, to your
It's
point,
not good.
overall, our mortgage market is much healthier than it used to be. Now, there is
Yeah.
a lot of pressure to loosen guidelines right now.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of that.
So
And
are we going to get back to 2008 when we start doing that again?
No.
No, I don't think we'll ever get back to that. Maybe. I mean, everything's cyclical.
I mean, if it-
History
it
does
opens-
tend to repeat itself.
People can have
We have
amnesia.
short-term
Yeah,
memory.
we have amnesia.
There
well,
are
listen,
portfolio
if it
lenders
does
that
open up
offer
to
things
that,
like
that will lead to a more of a quicksand base to the housing market. Right now, I think it's rock solid due to all the loans that we already have written in the past 7 years.
Yeah.
Right? Things were tight. Banks are tight on lending out money. So yeah, I think that there is a much lower chance of a recession due to our housing market being solid. Right? It's
Right.
more like Paul said, based upon jobs, right, and other factors that you would normally think contribute to the economy on a larger scale than the last recession, which was just a shaky housing market.
Well, there's a lot of other steps in place too. So appraisers, we can't call an appraiser up and say, hey, I need this to come in at some astronomical value that it'll never appraise for, right? So
There's
it's
so many
all-
things
it's
that used
all-
to happen, Kathy. Like
right.
there's a lot of factors that are put in place.
I used to put
to
notes in my
not
in
let
my
that
in my in my system to the appraiser. Hey man, I really need 150K. They do it,
Right.
right? Because there weren't a lot of checks and
It's all
balances.
your fault.
Kathy, talk to me a little bit about what you've seen from the shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market recently, right? It happened overnight. It was
Yeah.
very quick. I see many more listings. I drive around. I see a lot more signs in the yards. I don't see multiple offers like we did before. Some
Right.
houses, yes, but not as many.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing as far as that goes.
A lot more price reductions. You
Yeah.
see them every day coming through. Price reduce, price reduce. Homes sitting on the market a lot longer. Something that sat on the market in my area, Shelby Township, for 24 days last year is about 49 days.
It's way different.
Yeah, way different.
Yeah. So what are you telling your buyers right now? Is it a good time to buy?
It is a good time to buy. It's still a good time to buy because interest rates are still good.
Yeah.
You know?
Price of money's cheap.
Yeah.
And I think, and maybe you guys can correct me, but like right now, between now and the spring, because I think spring will pick up again, but between now and the spring, I feel like you can get you have a lot more leverage and you can get some deals, right?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes.
Right. So if you're a well qualified borrower right now, if someone's house has been sitting for 60 days, you can negotiate. You've got a lot more leverage than you did back in the day.
Well,
And it's perfect because you don't have to worry about landscaping and all that other bullshit for months after you buy it.
And I think that that question, is it a good time to buy, more or less needs to come from that borrower's own decision in their head.
Right.
Are you ready to buy a home? And if you are, what are what supports that? Are you financially ready to buy a home? Are you from like a emotional or family standpoint ready or need to buy a home, right? Because whether rates are 4% or 8%, if you can financially afford it and rent is equal to that, it's a good time to buy a home,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it is very relative. I agree with you, but there are a lot of people that like use the market as an excuse not to
Yes.
buy or to buy. Right? I'm not going to buy
Most
right
people
now.
must not need to buy a home.
Right. It's
right?
more. Well, it's more for
Right.
that person that's like, I kind of like to buy a new home, but I don't know. prices are high right now. I don't want to
you're right.
overpay.
Well,
It's for
I
that
think
guy that's like,
yeah, I mean, I guess as
if
a
you want a
first-time
deal on a
buyer-
house,
As
now's
a
the time.
first-time home buyer,
Or a
either you're
growing
living
family.
with your parents and not paying anything, or you're renting. Rent is just a complete
Waste of
waste of money. I mean,
Well, there's-
you're making somebody else rich,
Yeah.
as opposed to investing in yourself, investing in equity in
I
your own
think
place.
there's 3 market movers as far as buyers go. First-time buyers, right?
Yep.
Upsizers,
And
who
downsizers.
have to, and then downsizers.
Yeah.
You know, there's no like casual buyer really. I mean, there is, right? But they have the opportunity to kind of wait, right?
And the
I guess so does a
downsizers are
first-time buyer.
surprised at, again, the price of the condos that they're going into. Most of them are downsizing. You know, seniors want to downsize into condos. They don't want the stairs. They don't want that.
Yeah.
And
So-
what's funny is they're all competing for the same house because kind of like we said, a lot of these first-time buyers are millennials
and they like the condos.
who don't want to buy.
They don't want to cut the grass.
They don't want to. Well, no, they don't want to buy the $100,000 home that technically financially they should buy, but I don't want to put in the kitchen. I don't want to do that. So
Right.
now they're looking at a, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $220,000 home that the people who were living in that older house are buying, and also the downsizer wants to buy as well, right?
Yeah. What I'm
So-
seeing with seniors, downsizers that want to go into condos, they also want new construction, but there's not a lot of new construction condos out there right now. I wish the builders would kind of move into that market sector
But
too.
why, when I can build a $500,000 house, make way more money?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
so
the thing.
what are you seeing in the new construction? Are you seeing undeveloped land, or are you seeing bulldoze like one house and build new, or what's the trend right now? Because I guess I
Yeah.
don't really know.
Subdivisions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially
New
in Macomb.
subdivisions?
New
Especially in Macomb,
subdivisions. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only a small population of builders that have the know-how or the ability to go into like a community like Royal Oak, buy, build, and it's it's much harder to do that, in my opinion, than just buying a big plot of land and just leveling it and building a bunch of houses.
Right. I mean, it always comes down to the connection, I think, of who's getting the deal first, right? How do you get the deal on the house before it hits the MLS, before it even gets listed, right? How do you get that? So you, as a builder who builds custom homes, you really got to be connected in that community with, people giving you tips and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting market, and to your point, I think it's just the person that says right now, "Oh, I'll wait till the spring." Well, you shouldn't probably do that. If you're going to buy now. If you're going to buy in the spring, because you'll get more for your money right now, in my
Right.
opinion. That's the whole thing.
Rates may go up. You guys are the experts in that.
Rates will go up. It's
I've been
inevitable.
saying that for
And
5
they have.
years.
Well, we saw an increase already this year, a
Yeah,
couple.
they've steadily gone up
Yeah.
since.
Yeah,
rates over the
very,
last-
very healthy, steadily.
Yes.
Like it hasn't been like this. It's been
Right.
like this.
I don't think we're going to see it go like this ever, but rates are going to continue to rise. They might see a small relief or a small setback, but they're going to continue to rise steadily.
Yeah.
Especially for with the first-time home buyers. If their rate is here and then the home is $200,000 and they can afford it at that rate, if they don't buy it now and the rate goes up, they're not going to be able to afford that $200,000 home next year.
Right. So that's our show.
Money's cheap.
That's our show, guys.
That's our show.
That's
That's
it.
it.
That's it.
That was quick.
How did it feel, Kathy?
Felt good.
Yeah.
Felt
Why are you
really
laughing,
good.
Jessica? Why are you laughing?
That was just really fast and abrupt.
Just like
Paul's
my
used
sex
to
life.
that.
Just like my sex life. If my wife's listening,
That's
I know,
out.
baby.
He's done.
That's why
Speaking of
subconscious,
rates,
how'd that feel?
Man, the
Duh.
10-year is up.
Oh shit. Yeah, rates are going up today, guys. Not a good day to lock. All right. So obviously, reach out.
Unless you're closing, then you
Go,
have to.
go to iTunes, all that stuff. Reach out to us, Kathy. How can they get a hold of you if someone wants to buy or sell their house?
They can call me.
Okay. How do they do that?
They call me 586-405-0240.
One more time.
586-405-0240.
Perfect. Sal, I like the chest lettuce. That's good today.
Thanks. Thanks, Paul.
You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.
Just lettuce. What the hell is